Now this is the objective we will cover. It's eyelid. So what is the eyelid? That is, eyelid is a movable fold which protects our eye. Okay, so there is upper eyelid and there is a lower eyelid. Upper eyelid is a bigger fold and lower eyelid is a smaller fold, as you can see. Okay, so the upper eyelid and lower eyelid are the lids, and they meet at medial and lateral angles here. This one, medial angle, and this is the lateral angle. So medial canthus and lateral canthus. The name is canthus. Canthus is angle. So there is a medial angle and there is a lateral angle. And between these two eyelids, we have a gap. Eyelid can move. And there is a gap. When we close our opening will be closed when eyelids approximate each other. When upper eyelid moves up, the fissure opens and it's like opening a shutter of the camera. Okay, so it opens. And then the light travels through this cornea into the eye. So this is what is the palpebral fissure. This one is the palpebral fissure. You understand, I know, but just I'm trying to mark out so you know this is a palpebral fissure. Once the eyelid closes, this will close. Okay. When you see the structure of the eyelid, which I have mentioned in the next slide, that you can see that this outside is formed by the skin. This is the skin. And inner side, this is this line. This one is the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva is a covering for the eyeball also. It is the outer part of the eyeball and also covers the eyelid. So conjunctiva is divided into two parts. Palpebral conjunctiva. Palpebral conjunctiva is for the eyelid. So this one. This white line going here is a palpebral conjunctiva. Then it reflects and goes to the eyeball and it covers partly sclera here and up to this point. Then it is cornea. At the sclerocorneal junction, it stops. And then this is the cornea. And this is again the conjunctiva which is covering the eyeball. The conjunctiva covering the eyeball is known as the bulbar conjunctiva. Bulbar conjunctiva. Bulbar conjunctiva. It is mentioned further also in the presentation. So bulbar conjunctiva, because I am trying to explain the picture itself. So it is bulbar conjunctiva. Bulbar conjunctiva is here. Okay. So outer surface of the eyelid is by the skin and inner surface is by the palpebral conjunctiva. This reflects, the palpebral conjunctiva reflects to the bulbar conjunctiva at a point. This one is known as fornix. This is a superior fornix and this one is the inferior fornix, which is there in the label in the next slide. So this is what is the fornix. And as you can see, this is the eyelashes. Eyelashes, they are ciliate. Okay, they are short and curved, you can see here. But this curve should be outwards. Okay, if it turns inwards, clear, or eyelid turns inwards, then this particular eyelashes will be irritant to the cornea and causes trouble. Okay, so this is what is about the eyelash, which is here. So this is what is in nutshell, just an overview of the eyelid. Little more details, let's see. That is the skeleton, how this stuff curtain moves up and down. Okay, so this particular curtain is having a plate, tarsal plate here, this part. It is a thickened part of the fascia only. It is a fascia only here, this one, which is in the upper eyelid. We call it superior tarsus. The one which is in the lower eyelid, we call it inferior. Inferior is smaller and upper one is bigger, as you can see here, this one. Okay, it's like a skeleton and it makes the eyelid shape. Okay. Orbital septum already I explained. Okay, it is just a fascia. It medial palpebral ligament and lateral palpebral ligament. It is for the support for the eyelid. Okay, so this is what is about the skeleton of the eyelid. Most important is the tarsal plate, which is the thickened part. So sometimes some people can evert the eyelid and then turn. I cannot. I will have to try. But some people can immediately lift the eyelid and turn clear. So this is the against the upper edge of the tarsal plate here at this point. You can evert the eyelid. That orbicularis oculi is a muscle which is all around. It's here. It's like this. I will draw here. So you come to know this is the orbicularis. It's like this. It's concentric loops. And it also passes from the eyelid like this. So orbicularis oculi has three parts, but for you just to know, the big one, which is the orbicularis oculi orbital part, when you look at the bright light and you close and screw the eye towards the medial side or tightly close the eye, that is the orbital part of oculi. And when you gently close the eyelid, like sleeping this way, it is the palpebral part. So orbital and palpebral part is different action. And this is the orbicularis oculi muscle which I have drawn here. So job of this muscle is to close the palpebral fissure which are present here. Orbicularis oculi is supplied by a facial nerve. Okay, so facial nerve palsy, paralysis of facial, this muscle. Facial nerve palsy leads to paralysis of this muscle. Person cannot close the eye. So eye remains open. Eye remains open, the cornea remains exposed to the environment and gets dried up and causes corneal ulcers. That's why this is important to know, oculi. And another one, the levator palpebris superior is supplied by oculomotor nerve, third cranial nerve. And oculomotor nerve palsy, damage to the oculomotor, the eyelid will drop. The drooping of the eyelid is known as ptosis. P is silent, okay, which is mentioned later on. So some points which comes up later on, we'll skip little faster. I'm just trying to build up so that you understand the principles. So orbicularis oculi, facial nerve, and levator palpebris, oculomotor nerve. Orbital is for closure and levator is for the opening of the eye. Okay, and damage to facial nerve, clear, inability to close eye leads to damage to the cornea, and the paralysis of levator by damage to oculomotor nerve, ptosis, drooping of the eye. So eye will remain like that, partly, so he cannot see. Now you can surgically correct these things. Okay, and for the orbicularis, if it is paralyzed, people usually give the cellulose drops or long-term drops during the night, so that the cornea will not get dried and gets ulcers. So this is what is about the two important muscles present in the eyelid itself. Okay, so this is what is about the name of the muscles which is mentioned in your presentation. I explain little more detail relevant to the clinical. This is the structure of the eyelid just for reference. Okay, so starting from front, this is the picture which gives you idea that this one is the skin. Then you can see this, some glands are there, sweat glands, clear. Here the gland of disease are there. Then you see this muscle which is orbicularis oculi. Then you can see this tarsal plate. In the tarsal plate is the insertion of the levator. The deeper part of the levator is known as Mueller's muscle. The Mueller muscle is supplied by sympathetic and levator is supplied by oculomotor. So even in the case of damage to the sympathetic system, coming to the head and neck, like in Horner syndrome, still patient develops ptosis because of this Mueller's muscle paralysis. Mueller is a small part of the levator and it has different nerve supply, which is later on mentioned with the extraocular muscles. So this is what is about the Mueller muscle. So it is also part of the structure. And in this tarsal plate, we have a gland, big gland. This gland is known as tarsal gland, which is mentioned in your presentation also. So tarsal gland. And this one is the gland known as meibomian, is another name for the tarsal gland. So meibomian gland or the tarsal gland. And this secretion is oily. From this, it is a modified gland, sebaceous type of gland. So it's an oily secretion. And it coats the cornea. Okay, so this is very important secretion from this particular gland. And in infection of this gland also it takes place, which we'll see just in next slide itself. Okay, so this structure is just for your reference to know that how the eyelid is formed. The conjunctival part already I discussed, except the one point, which is the subtarsal sulcus. It's a point of junction of the tarsal to the orbital part. So there is a small sulcus, and when some dust particle goes to the eye and traps into that sulcus, which will be somewhere here at this point, okay, then it becomes constant irritation unless you evert the eyelid and remove the dust particle from that sulcus. It will not go. Even if you, it will not go away. It needs somewhat exercise. Okay, so that's why subtarsal sulcus is clinically important for the foreign body entrapment in the orbit. Okay, a small dust particle can cause a harm, and every time the eyelid moves, the dust particle scratch the cornea, and that's why, and it causes severe pain and redness of the eye. So it has to be removed immediately. Otherwise, it will go on damaging till you delay the things. Okay. Other parts I already mentioned: palpebral conjunctiva, bulbar conjunctiva, fornix. The conjunctival sac is this whole area. When you close the eye, conjunctival sac is closed. When you open the eyelids, the conjunctival sac is open to the surface. That is a cavity. Okay. Fissure we discussed. And the subtarsal sulcus is the point which I mentioned, where the tarsal plate finishes. That's a point. There's a small depression, linear depression. When you evert the eye, you'll find that sulcus, and sometimes dust particles trap into this one. Here at this point, actually. Okay. Now some other facts which you see in the eye is this. Okay, which is important for lacrimal apparatus. So in the lacrimal apparatus, this is important to know. What happened? This is the gland here. The lacrimal gland will be there, which will be just next to next slide. So I am just showing you here, and then we move, and then I will explain again when it comes back. If you go and see in the mirror later on after I finish my presentation, you will find that upper and lower eyelid, when they meet, there is a small opening which is known as lacrimal punctum. You can see that's a lacrimal punctum. It's an opening from where the canal will start. Okay, and this particular medial side, you will find a small fold, semilunar fold, which is known as plica semiluraris. Just lateral to it, there is a small depression, which is known as lacus lacrimalis. It's a lake because water collects into it. What is water? Lacrimal fluid. So that's why people call it lacus lacrimalis, this part, whole thing. And in the lacus, there is an elevation like an island, and that is caruncle. So these are small features you see on the medial side of the eye. When you look at the mirror, you will find these points. Okay, and some of the important fact I will explain with the lacrimal apparatus. But at present, this is the feature which you see on the medial canthus. And this white streaks, you see these white lines? This is nothing but the tarsal glands. They are multiple, around 20 or plus. So this is the tarsal glands interior tarsal plate. You can see this vertical lines here, and they open here. Their openings are here at the margin. Some of the glands which is mentioned, so I will explain the tarsal gland in detail. This one, tarsal gland, it is meibomian gland, and as I mentioned, it is a modified sebaceous gland. So its secretion is oily, lipid secretion. Okay, so this is what is, it makes the eyelid airtight. So this is what is about the meibomian gland. Other glands are the small sebaceous glands, the glands of Zeiss, it is here, and the glands of Moll. This is the glands of Zeiss, yeah. And glands of Moll, ciliary glands here in this region. Yeah. This is a small gland which is related to the cilia of the eyelashes, or known as ciliary glands. This is modified sweat gland, and this one sebaceous gland is a gland of Zeiss. Because the infection of these glands also can take place, and infection of this gland also take place. Clear? And the one which I mentioned for your reference is the infections of this particular glands and some of the clinical aspect of the eyelid. This is the one. So as you can see, the trichiasis is the condition which is misdirected eyelashes, like this, as you can see. See, it should go outward, it goes inwards and causes irritation. Okay. Entropion is the condition where the, as you see this, the inverted eyelids or iliasis and eyelid both. Once the eyelid goes inwards, the iliasis will also move inwards and touches to the cornea and the sclera and causes irritation. So it also is plucked. It should be removed. Okay. The iliasis should be removed, which is causing trouble. Here also it should be removed. This one is the tracheasis. Okay. Which is the misdirected iliasis. And this one, as you see, this one is the inverted eyelid. And once eyelid invert, the iliasis also will invert and causes trouble to the cornea. Here, this one. Okay. And this one is the drooping of the eyelid, ptosis, because of the paralysis or weakness of the Mueller muscle. Okay. So this is what is about some of the clinical aspect. Now about some of the clinical aspect of the gland. This will be covered by 110% by clinician. I know very well. Stye, because it's one of the common condition of the eyelid. So it will be covered. Whosoever takes your classes for the ophthalmology will cover this item. Okay. So this one is the, I'm just giving you idea that when it's the acute infection, we call it stye. And when it is chronic infection, we call it chalazion. Chalazion. So chalazion is chronic infection. And mostly it is for the meibomian gland. Now you know what is the meibomian. It's a sebaceous gland. So it's a meibomian gland and its chronic infection is known as chalazion. As you can see, the redness is not so much so predominant here. It will be explained by a clinician, but I'm just explaining that this is how it looks like. But once the redness takes place here, this one, clear, it is the redness like this one, both is acute conditions. If it is for the meibomian gland, we call it internal hordeolum, internal stye, because meibomian gland is inside. And if it is at the margin of the eyelid, you see exactly near the margin here, this one. So that one is the external hordeolum, and it is by the glands of Zeiss and the mole. Glands of the Zeiss and the moles. So this is what is here. Okay, that is external hordeolum. It is also known as stye. This one is, you see elevation red, but when you evert, you find redness more there and some infection of the gland seen predominantly, whichever is the gland involved, the mouth of the duct may be blocked. So that is what is the meibomian gland infection. And it is also known as stye, but it is internal hordeolum, clinical term. The layman term is stye. When it repeatedly occurs and it is long time, then it is known as chalazion. It's a chronic infection. So these are some of the clinical aspects of the eyelid, as I explained to you just for your reference, and clinician may explain to you.